Hello and welcome to another episode of Trailblazers Rising, where we are sharing stories of standout entrepreneurial women. And I have to tell you, I am fangirling pretty hard, not only because my next guest, her name is also my name, Melanie, but when I say she is such a badass feminist that that's who I want to be when I grow up and step into my fully embodied shoes. Today, I have I want everybody to put their hands together for Melanie, and I will not even do any butchering of what it is she does. I'm just going to hand the floor over to her and say, welcome, Melanie. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business before we dive into all these fun questions.
Oh my gosh. First, I have to say that I recognize fangirl. I've been watching you. I'm obsessed with your TikTok. I just love how much help you give to those of us who are neurospicy. I also have ADHD. So thank you. And thank you for having me. This is such an honor, such a fun thing to meet you. My name is Melanie Childers. I am a mass certified coach and I work with feminist entrepreneurs to help them grow and scale their businesses without using like toxic dude bro tactics and with so much ease and fun and pleasure. Like we just have such a blast. Business does not freaking have to be hard. It gets to be whatever you make it gets to be fun.
You're so right. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Since I'm very excited to be talking to you, my dogs pick up on that energy and they're going to come over probably 5 times and try and like get excited. They've already brought a lizard in the house today once. So it's also, it's a wild, who knows
Perfect.
what's going to happen today. It's a warm spring day here in Northeast Florida. Here he comes right now, sir. Go. I'm doing say caramba. I should bring a little piece of cheese or something over here so I can fight him off. All right. So without further ado, we're going to dive in. Now, I want you to please spill the beans on how you started your entrepreneurial journey. We want all the juicy details. What was it that tipped you over the edge and said, I got to do this on my own. I can't work for anybody else anymore.
Oh my God. Truth bomb time. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 34 and it completely dropped a whole bomb on my whole life. I had just finished a master's degree in adult education. I was working for a Fortune 50 company in their training and I was like, this is the life that I planned and it is not the life that I want. And I had run a small company before. I'm a knitter. And so I dyed yarn because I would just really love doing that. And so I'd run a
Because of
small little
course, that's the
company
most
because
ADHD thing I've ever heard before.
I
I
know,
dyed yarn, no big deal.
just no big deal. Just made colorways that were super fun for me to knit. And then people wanted to buy them. And so I was like, okay. And it really just kind of paid for itself. And it was just something fun to do until it wasn't. I was like, okay, now I'm bored and now I'm exhausted. And also now I have cancer. So I'm going to close up shop and let me focus on my health and let me do other things. But I came to coaching when, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years after cancer, people tell you like, oh, it's just going to be a year of hell. And it's like, no, 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 no. This was 5 fucking years of hell. And I went through all the things that are major life changes. So I moved, I quit a toxic job. I got a divorce from my husband. I was like, all of these things happening. And I was like, you know what? I need some tools because I'm not dealing very well. And I've done therapy and therapy doesn't really fucking work for me. It's nice for a minute to bitch about some stuff and to cry, but I need some actual tools that will help me have the life that I want. And so I found You Are a Badass when that very first came out. And I worked with Jen Sincero back when she was doing small group programs on the phone. And I was like, I want this. I want to do this for people. And that evolved over time. I got certified and I realized I really love working feminists. 2016 happened. Lots of people were freaked out and traumatized. I know. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is not different from a cancer diagnosis. It is traumatic. And y'all are experiencing some traumatic shit. And I know how to help you with that. And so I was working with activists and then I was working women running for office because I was like, okay, how do I help the people who are helping the most people? And so I helped a bunch of women get elected. And then I was like, you know what? But running a campaign or running a business are not that different. And I'm loving what I'm learning about running a business. And I think I want to work with entrepreneurs. That's me.
You
That's how I got
know,
here.
the entrepreneurial spirit, especially in high achieving neurodivergent women, is so inspiring and so incredible. And as well as anybody, as well as I do, I'm sure, that the imposter syndrome that shows up and the self doubt that
Ooh,
shows up in women that are so incredibly powerful, but they've been conditioned their entire lives for a multitude of reasons
yep.
to doubt themselves, not trust themselves, and attribute all of their success to some sort of outside force or factor instead of their own inherent like worth and
Mhm,
ability.
mhm.
And it is so frustrating. So you got diagnosed with breast cancer, blew your life up, changed it completely. And now you help other women that are ready to really take their life and their business by the reins and start making serious change.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right with the imposter syndrome and the cultural conditioning that we've all had, that we don't want to take up too much space, but don't be a wallflower either. And don't be too loud, but don't be too soft. And don't be a bitch, but don't be too nice. And it's like there's this perfect box that we are supposed to fit in, that society tells us we're supposed to fit in. And outside of that box is actually what creates success. But we're all told, don't be too ambitious. Don't brag about how much money you make, or what you have, or how well you're doing. And it's like hide and cover up and look perfect and make sure everybody's happy. And the truth is, like, building a business goes in all of that conditioning. And we have to do so much. I know you're a mindset coach. I am too. We have to do so much mindset work to break ourselves out of that perfect little good girl box. And I'm using quotes around good girl because it's a bunch of bullshit. We have to do so much work to break out of that conditioning so that we can have a successful business that feels good to us. But we have to unfuck so much of that cultural thinking along the way, that, like, being an entrepreneur and growing a business really is a personal growth journey as much as it is a journey to, a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of impact on the world. Ooh, it is. I'm getting chill bumps as I'm talking about it, because it's just there is so much mindset that we have to overcome when we are told how to be.
Yeah. And, I talk to a lot of different coaches, whether they're confidence coaches, mindset coaches, business coaches, all that. I myself am an intuitive business mindset coach, right? So I understand the importance of having actionable steps that you can take to change your mindset, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of life coaches that go out and get certified, and they preach the education, preach isn't the right word, but they tout that you have to start with your beliefs, because that's what's going to drive your thoughts, which is going to drive your opinions and going to drive your actions, and so on and so forth. But you can't even get down into the nitty gritty of changing your beliefs until you start eliminating certain words from your thought
Mhm.
processes and from your sentences. So anybody that's ever worked with me one on one or in any of the group programs I've ever offered, I have a list of no words that you literally have to replace or omit from your everyday language, because
Ooh,
they are designed to bring you to a negative space, right? Our thoughts can either bring us positive, neutral, or negative. And
yep,
that's simply a fact, right? And if we know that our subconscious mind makes 90% of our decisions all day, every day, we're not even making the decisions half the time, right? And then we add neurospiciness on top of it, where half of us are just operating on autopilot, and you're driving to the grocery store and you get there and you have no idea how you got there because you don't remember driving there.
yep,
So, words like, and this one is what really kicked me in my, shame lives in should, right? So
yes,
every time I'm at the Neurospicy Academy, of which I am the second in command and the success coach, and I'm on our virtual campus, which is just like Zoom and a video game put together. It's so fun. And I'm talking to one of our members, and they say the word should. They look right at me and they go, I would benefit from, because that's what we replace it with. So instead of saying, I should send 10 emails today, we say, I would benefit from sending those 10 emails today. Because,
brilliant.
and you mentioned earlier that therapy hadn't really worked for you, and traditional talk therapy doesn't work for a lot of us neurospicies because we've already figured out the why. That's
Mhm.
not the problem. I've
Like, I
already
know
done the research.
why. Help me
Yeah.
do something different.
Yeah. Research is my special interest. Thank you
Oh,
very much.
exactly.
I already figured out why I'm here. I need
Yep.
you to give me the tools to move it forward. And your brain is always one step ahead of you. And your brain is not going to dispense the go go juice, the
Mhm.
dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine to start and complete a task if that task sounds like a drag. And
Yep.
so if you are shaming yourself and criticizing yourself into, I should do this, your brain's going to go, no, thank.
Nope, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, anytime I look at my to-do list and it's like, well, here's what's on the to-do list and I better get it done today, my brain's like, yeah, no, I think a nap
Yeah.
sounds better. I'm like, wait, what's
Right.
happening right now? What's happening right now?
Right. So that's a good point. That brings me to a next question. Balancing everything when you are an entrepreneur, and a woman entrepreneur at that, right? Whether you have a life partner, whether you have a spouse, whether you have children, whether they're grown or little, whether you have, what doesn't matter. When you're an entrepreneur and you work from home, your life and business mesh, right? So your
Yep.
schedule, your calendar is going to be a mixture of client calls and getting to a doctor's appointment, getting to the kids' swim meet or making it to dinner with your partner that night, your spouse. So when it comes to not getting into that frame of mind of, oh, well, I have 10 more minutes before I have to do something, I should just make another Instagram story, right? How do you balance that constant need to be producing?
I will tell you that has been one of the biggest struggles for me as an entrepreneur because when I started my business, I was working full time and I was a sales coach for another coach. And so I was working 3 jobs. And so I created like an Excel spreadsheet for every that had like a pie chart in it so that I could see like where am I spending my time. And when I went full time in my business, I really struggled with bringing the 9 to 5 mentality into my business. It was like, okay, you make your to do list. This is what you have to get done every day. And then I worked with one of my mentors from many moons ago who had a program that was like, here's how to schedule your time and your projects and put things on your calendar and get shit done. And what I found that that did for me was it created so much stress and so much pressure that I just like an absolute victim
Yeah.
to my to-do list and my calendar every day. And I was like, okay, this freaking has to stop. This has to stop. I have to change something. So the way that I really balance my life, and I will tell you that also the ADHD thing that I have is like at like 9, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, my brain's like, hi, let's do things. And so it's like, okay, we got to manage that. So I have a notebook next to me at night. Every time my brain comes up with ideas, I'm like, okay, we're just going to jot it down. We'll get to it so that I can be present with my husband. But I've also worked with my calendar so that I have specified days where all I do is work with clients. So I'm either
Yep.
coaching or I'm teaching or I'm answering things for them in our Slack channel or in our Facebook group. And then I have specified days where I'm just doing creative things. So I'm getting work out of my brain. I'm creating videos or I'm writing content or like those are like creation and usually Mondays are coaching day and maybe some admin in the afternoon. Tuesdays are writing, getting things out of my brain. So podcast episodes, reels, TikTok ideas, the course that I'm working on, the book that I'm working on. Wednesdays are one-on-one coaching days. Thursdays, I'm taking what I worked on Tuesday and actually recording those things. So I'm even separating out the creation and the recording of it because trying to do all of that at once just sends my brain into a total spiral. And then Fridays are like catch up, clean up, admin, whatever is vital only. Everything else gets rescheduled.
I love that. So I'm actually teaching a workshop this weekend called the Time Hackers Workshop, where I teach busy AF
Yes.
entrepreneurs how to actually it's a lifestyle. It's no longer about your calendar. It's no longer about your schedule. This is a full on lifestyle that I want people
Yeah.
to understand and adopt. And it's a play on low demand living, which is something that I stumbled upon and my family and I started doing just intuitively. And then a
Yeah.
fellow creator, Lisa Hicks, posted about it. And I went, wait a minute, there's a name for it. So I've taken it a few steps further as an intuitive, because I do believe that as a business owner and as a woman, we have to connect to our intuition. We have to connect to our spirit guides. We have to connect to our faith, whatever it is that
Yeah.
drives you and helps you understand that, you came here for a purpose and to carry it out and not lose your drive when you start to lose your focus a little bit. Cause again,
Mm.
ADHD,
Yep.
such a fun element to throw into the mix all the time, right? So how would you say it since you're so good at managing your calendar and whatnot, and you got to that point pretty intuitively, it sounds, how would you say you have strengthened or developed your intuition to aid you in business?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And I completely agree that that is an area of focus that is so vital, especially for those of us who identify as women and those of us who are neurospicy. For me, it was really about like following my personal energy. And it was like, okay, if I don't sleep, my energy is going to be real screwed up tomorrow. And if I don't have the right fuel, my energy is going to be real screwed up. And if I having a day where I'm choosing not to be on my meds, my energy I know is going to be kind of all over the place. So it's like, how do I want to create my day that feels the way that I want to feel, that helps me get things done if I want to get things done today, and that helps me like have the energy that I want to have. So I have snacks. I know that my energy and my creativity and my ability to work is generally from like 11 to 2 or 11 to 3. And I also know that I'm gonna have a peak in the evenings, and so it's like the nights that my husband plays, like, role-playing games, like, once or twice a week, and so the nights that he does
What?
that. Yeah, I know.
You both do or he does?
He does. He's really good at it. I used to. I help him with story and creativity stuff, but
What kind of roles does he play?
he runs a game that, like, he and his folks, like, they created it together, and so, like, it's a storytelling game, and they just run it, and they love it. It's so fun for
I
them.
love that.
Yeah, it's like weird, wild fan sci-fi,
Yeah.
just wild shit. It's so fun. So, like, I
Yeah.
help him come up with ideas sometimes, but yeah, the nights that he's doing those, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna harness my energy that I have and do some work, do some creative things," or I don't. I'll knit and watch something, and but yeah, I really think that it's about, like, using what you know to be true for yourself
Yeah.
first. Where's my energy at? What fuels me? How do I wanna feel? And, coming back to, like, being connected with your purpose, I think it's very easy to lose that when you're, like, in a launch, when you're selling something, when you're actively focused on hitting a goal or hitting a revenue number. And what I teach my clients to do is to, yes, have that goal, but come back every day to, why am I doing this? What is my deep desire? What is my deep purpose? To use that desire and to use that intentional focus, create fuel and dopamine for themselves. It's like, fuel yourself with your own desire every day. And that makes the selling and or the harder parts of business that aren't aren't as fun. That makes them more rewarding because your brain's focused on the desire.
Yeah, the switch from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation is vital when you go
Oh yeah,
from being an employee to being, an entrepreneur, a CEO, being in charge
absolutely.
of what you're going to do every day, right? So
Yeah.
you started your business when you were working full time. I started my business when I was working full time in a very busy restaurant, which shall not be named. Um, and really the rejection sensitivity that we all face as neurospices, right? And there's a science behind why rejection sensitivity dysphoria is at like a 99% comorbidity rate with ADHD. And it has a lot to do
Wow.
with the fact that, a non-diagnosed ADHD kid hears the word no like 300,000 times by the time they're
Mhm.
5, as opposed to an allistic normal kid that doesn't have the ADHD or the autism. So of course we're naturally, we came out of the womb learning we had to mask. So when you are, because there's a lot of people that are listening that are in the beginning stages of entrepreneurship and just now realizing that the people that are in their life and are supposed to be the most support are not super supportive, which leads to a lot of that rejection sensitivity. How do you handle it when it kind of, because it blindsides us,
Mm.
the somebody not being receptive and supportive to your plans, because I found that is a bigger issue as an entrepreneur than not getting the sale, which is not something that I had anticipated. It's like I feel more rejected by the people that I thought were going to love me and support me the most than I do. Like my clients have become more of my friends than my friends were before I started
Yeah.
this whole thing.
Oh my god, same. Yeah, and I think, I don't think that I had the rejection sensitivity about my family as much as I did about hearing no in other places. But, like, I in my 20s, I worked and went to, lots of training to be an actor, and I had an opportunity to go to LA and do some stuff, and I was so terrified of the rejection that I was like, "Yeah, no, I don't think this is the path." So, I left the whole thing. I was like, I don't wanna be rejected. I can't emotionally hear no 100 times a day and survive." So I was just like,
Wow.
"It's just a no for me." But what I learned over time was that my family was very supportive. My husband, thankfully, is very supportive. Um, but they couldn't see it the way that I could see it. And so the way that I managed was that I didn't talk to them about it
Wow.
until it was quote unquote a big deal, until they would
Yeah.
see it as a big deal. And now they're like, "Oh my God, we're so proud of you." But of course, at first they're like, "Are you sure you're doing the right thing? Should you really be quitting your job? What about taxes? What about health insurance? Because cancer survivor. What about this? What about that?" And I was like, "I got it. I got it all. Stop asking questions. Trust. I got this. I can do this." But what I really had to untangle for myself was my own self-esteem from hearing a yes or a no.
Yeah.
I had to completely detach emotionally from the sale and emotionally from someone else's my perception of someone else's rejection of me, which was
Yeah.
a no or an I don't want to work with you or what have you. Or unsubscribes, like that was a big thing. Or like when people would comment and say, "I disagree with you." I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like, that
Yeah.
felt very triggering for me. So I probably spent 2 or 3 years doing my own self-coaching and mindset work, excuse me, to untangle my response to that so that I was like, I'm still okay. I still love me. I still got me. I'm still a good person, even when I hear no or people disagree or people flat out drag me on the internet or when the haters come, because guess what? They're gonna come, and how you manage it and how you talk to yourself when that's happening is everything. Is what keeps
Oh
you in the
yeah.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been making content a lot lately about self-care is so important to manifesting successfully, right? Because you have to manifest in steps. You're not gonna go from the apartment to the mansion. There's going to be
Yeah.
steps in between.
Yeah.
So, for example, what I tell people is, I'm manifesting a full-on team. I've recently taken on an executive assistant, which is very, very exciting. I have a business partner over at the Neurospicy Academy, and I am manifesting, a hair and makeup team. I'm manifesting a driver. It may turn out to be my husband in a few years when he retires from the Navy. Who knows? God knows that he's putting in the effort and he would love to just have that be his job. Let me tell you. But I think in order for me to get to a space where I can successfully like in order for me to have that team, I'm going to have to treat my hair and makeup right now as if it's very important to me. And it is, luckily. I'm very
Yes.
lucky that my mom said when I was a little baby, if she wanted to do her face, she just had to sit me on the floor in her bathroom and I would just stare open mouth looking at her like, oh my God. And it's true. I've been wearing makeup since I can remember, but I have
Mhm.
to take it seriously. I have to take my skincare seriously. I have to take that morning and nighttime routine seriously, right? I have systems for making sure it's going to work no matter my energy level. But the girl who has a team for her hair and makeup value the way that she looks and feels,
Yeah.
right? So when it comes to manifesting, is there one particular manifestation analogy that makes the most sense or really made it click for you? Because I use the restaurant manifestation method of, you have to do your portion of the work and then allow the universe to do their portion of the work. The same way you go to a restaurant, you order your food and then you trust that it's coming. You don't sit there worrying and watching the cooks do it, right? So
Right.
is there
You're not back
is
on the
there
line like,
you're not they
"Is it
don't like
happening?"
it when you do that. They don't like it when you do that. And I promise you your server does not want you to go behind them at the POS while they're putting the order in and
Just
check and make sure
kidding.
that no, they don't like it. You have to have an element of trust, right? So is there one way that manifestation really made sense to you?
Um, yeah, I mean, the way that it made sense to me was like, it's not like if you visualize, it will come, right? Like there's a part of us that wants to think like, oh, it's magic. And if I just think it, I'll see it and then I'll see it and then I'll have it. And that's an element.
Yeah.
The thing that really, really clicked for me was becoming the version of you that believes that you are worthy of it, that believes that what you want is possible for you. So I actually have a list of intentional thoughts that I choose to believe about myself. Some people call them like affirmations, but I call them like intentional thoughts about my next level. And I go for a walk around my neighborhood and I've recorded them on my phone and I just press play and I listen to myself tell myself about my next level, about who I am, about what is possible for me, about where I'm going, about the impact that I'm having. Because I think in the moment, it's really easy to think about like just the next person that's going to hire you or the next 10 people for your launch. But when you take your brain intentionally to the place of like, I'm not just selling for 10 people, I'm creating something for 10,000 people. I'm creating something for 100,000 people. That changes the way that you see yourself. That changes what becomes possible for you because of the way that you see yourself and what you're worthy of and what you're actually doing here. It asks your brain to think a little bit bigger. And when you do that and you see yourself from this zoomed out perspective of what is possible for you, then those things are more likely to come because you're already lined up with that's happening for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And while we're on the subject of self-care, I always like to ask people if I were to drop a reality show camera crew into your life for the past 7 days, what sort of self-care rituals would we see?
You would see me taking walks. You would see me getting on my Peloton, even when I don't feel like it, even if it's just to move my legs, move my body. You would see me taking really good care of my face. You would see me honestly, leaving my house in the middle of the day, in the middle of the quote unquote work day to go for a ride and get a whole new perspective. I also go and take my dog for a walk in like hike in a park and I just go sit. Yesterday, my husband and I we went and got a coffee, and we just sat in this beautiful field in the shade under the sun yesterday. And we just laid back and watched the sky for about 10 or 15 minutes before I had to do something else. But it was like, I just need a brain break. I just need a refresh.
Yeah.
You would also see me knitting. That to me is self-care. It's just a creative expression that has nothing to do with my business, but that gives my ADHD in my hand something to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And preparing like really good fuel for myself. I don't eat a
Yeah.
lot of junk food because it just doesn't make my body feel good.
Yeah, you know how there's a big movement in the health and wellness space and the workout space, whatever we want to call it, of the 80-20, right? So eat clean 80% of the time and then 20% of the time do what you want. I operate under the fuel long-term dopamine, like extended release dopamine, and fuel short-term instant release dopamine, right? So we know that we're going to have better, longer lasting dopamine when we eat a high protein diet.
Nope.
But we also know if you need a little pick me up, 2 Oreos packs a punch of dopamine. We know it's not long lasting,
Yeah.
but we know it's going to pick you up and make you go real quick, hard, and fast for a portion of time, right? And when you talk about moving your body, what I want people to know is that they're doing research now that suggests, and this is so exciting, they're doing research now that suggests running for a minute to 2 minutes and then walking and then running for a minute to 2 minutes is a better workout. You're talking a
Mhm.
10-20 minute workout than running for 30 plus minutes because your cortisol levels don't stay heightened, right? So we know when you're running, your brain is going, oh my God, saber-tooth tigers, get to safety. What are we doing? Because, it's not in the status quo to be running. So instead of keeping yourself in this high fear response state for any length of time, you can just run really fast and then your brain and body goes, all right, we outran the tiger. Everything is safe again. And then you do it again later because first and foremost, I don't have a lot of time to be exercising for a long period of time. And I don't have, it doesn't make my energy last longer all day. It's going to make me get real tired. And I've also discovered that I'm a middle of the day worker out or mover arounder because, and everybody that goes to the Neurospicy Academy knows this, between 3 and 6 p.m., my brain is not going to do any work. I could sit here at the computer all I want and it's not going to do any work. And physically, I can't even sit during those hours most of the time. It's either I have to go lay down and be horizontal, or
Mhm.
I'm going to be jumping on my trampoline. I'm going to be taking my you know what's for a you know what. They're around, so I can't sit. Or, my kids, and it could naturally be an adaptation to the fact that my children are now teenagers. And that's usually been the time that you got to pick them up from school, take them to a practice, do all that sort of stuff. So it's helpful that happens, but you have to adjust your calendar and your schedule for that physical movement and what your body needs because we've been suppressing our stim for a very,
Mhm.
very, very long time.
Yeah, and I experienced the same thing. It's like from like 3 to 6 or 7, like my brain's just done. My
Yeah.
brain's done and I need something else. So I usually ride in the morning because that gives me some energy in the morning
Yeah.
because my brain don't wake up till 10 or 11 either. So it's like I get a little bit of energy, have some coffee, and then the afternoon it's like, okay, let's go for a walk. Let's, maybe we're lifting weights or maybe we're just not doing anything at all. Just watching
Yeah.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely helpful as well. I love a good new Selling Sunset is coming out in May. I just saw
Mhm.
it on Heather, what's her name's Instagram while I was scrolling this morning. Very, very exciting. Very
Can't wait.
exciting. I love that. I like to shows to help me manifest, right? So I'm a firm believer that
Yes.
we have emotional support shows, right?
Mhm.
And we also have these shows that are going to inspire the lifestyle that it is that you're hoping to attain, right? And it's not that like I watch Success. Do I want to ever be at a level of richness that I own my own private jet? No, absolutely not. But do I want to be able to fly private? Yes. Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
So, and I don't know about you. I'm almost 37. I'll be 37 this month. I was 16 when Fast and Furious came out and I had a Mustang convertible. God bless my heart for not dying in that thing, that little death trap that it was. And when me and my friends left that movie theater, baby, we were race car drivers. We
Yep.
were might as well be wearing the wife beater and those little hats and just a total bad. So I figure that part of me hasn't changed. So let's adapt my lifestyle to it. So Selling Sunset is one of my favorite manifestation shows because that is a lifestyle.
I love that. And I'm the same way. Like I like to peek in on people who have more than me just to see like how do they think about themselves? How do they think about the world? What's different? How do they treat themselves? What are their thoughts? What are their expectations? How do they feel? how do they move? Because like I grew up broke ass poor on like food stamps in Alabama, y'all. So like I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And my dad was a ADHD entrepreneur also, to the exclusion of his family, basically. And he died working till his very until like we had to pull him off the desk. We were like, look, man, you have cancer and it's time for hospice. You gotta go lay down. But like, I don't know where I was going with that, but whatever, ADHD. Like it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to, you can manage your experience and your symptoms. Like it doesn't have to be this like death march, right? Like
Yeah.
you get to have fun and you get to take breaks and you get to enjoy. And like I think seeing how other people live and how other people experience the things that you want is so incredibly useful to like get in your body
Yeah.
the feeling of, if you want to be wealthy, the feeling of wealth. Like one of my favorite things to do is to stay one night at a super high end place
Yeah.
that I would never spend a whole week, but I could.
Yeah.
But just to be around that vibe and that feeling and
Yeah.
what you're experiencing there, that high 5-star level of service. Because your
Yeah.
your brain gets to see like, oh, this is a very different life and oh,
Yeah.
this is possible for me.
They say don't take directions from somebody who's never been where you're. So of course, let's interact with people that know where we're going and can help guide us there, right? Like I don't want to be the biggest fish in pond. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room
Yeah.
because then I'm not going to be growing and I'm not going to be learning. And I'm not going to be able to take notes on what's the appropriate risks to take, right?
Mhm.
When is it time to bet on yourself? When is it time to bet on someone else? And, when can we feel like we can trust our gut, right? So, what is the biggest risk that you've taken in your business? And was it worth it?
Ooh. God, that's such a great question. I might have to think for a second. I
Yes.
think I
Okay.
feel like the biggest risk that I took was probably hiring a super high-end coach and sticking with her for several years. That was a lot more than my business could really afford at the time. It was worth it. I would say it's 50.
Okay.
It was worth it. I'm glad that I did it because I learned a lot and I worked through a lot of stuff that it would have taken me a lot longer to do.
Yeah.
Um, I probably though the regrets that I have would be like making some decisions that I didn't listen to myself.
Yeah.
I believed that person knew better than me. And there were some things that she did know better than me. And there were some things that I really wish that I had listened to myself. But I take ownership of that. I take responsibility for that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I made those decisions. Yeah, that was a big risk, and it didn't always work out the way that I thought it would.
Yeah.
I ran a business model that ultimately kept me from earning as much as I could have. And I didn't learn the things that I could have learned that would have helped my business actually go faster because she wasn't teaching those things. And
Yeah.
she had positioned herself as this is all you need. And that wasn't true. But I chose to believe it and I chose not to look outside for other things that might help me get where I wanted to go. I was like, no, no, this is the only thing that I need. And, I take full responsibility for that. I needed to do the work, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I get that. I get that. All of my clients that I work with have, I would say it's 90% of my clients have worked with coaches in the past and have gotten burned by those coaches, right?
Hmm.
People that, and because traditionally speaking, they're working with neurotypical coaches who have this sort of
Yep.
one size fits all methodology and they don't really do more support on the back end behind the scenes when it's not just, your weekly or your biweekly calls, right? And in my experience, we benefit tremendously from showcasing all aspects of ourselves. And I know there's a big movement on social media about multi potentialites and not niching down and that sort of thing. And in my experience and belief as an intuitive energy healer with psychic abilities and the knowledge and experience in all things neurodivergent and accommodating
Yep.
neurodivergence, really the only way that you can flex your superpowers and use your superpowers is when you have tapped into your intuition. You do really trust and believe yourself and the things that are guiding you, and you're taking care of yourself, and you have somebody in your corner who is helping you become the best you and is not helping you become another version of them.
A fucking man. Amen. There there was so much that there were so many ways that I sort of left my own self at the door and took on more of what her version of success looked like. And I did this with other mentors. It certainly wasn't just her. But I think it's very, very easy to fall into the trap of that's what success is supposed to look like. And I need to park any part of myself that doesn't look like and model myself after this person. And in my experience, that leaves so much of your own superpowers
Yeah.
out of the equation. And every single time that I sounded like or did things their way, I sounded like them. And it was freaking crickets for my
Yeah.
audience. They were
Yeah.
like, who's this?
Yeah. They can always tell.
They want
They
him.
can,
Yeah, they can
yeah.
always tell when the vibe is off. They wanted me and my flavor and my take, not me edited through the lens of these other people. And so, yeah, for everybody listening, like look for how have I accidentally molded myself after someone else and how can I bring more of my true authentic self to my copy, to my marketing, to the way that I structure my business, whose rules am I accidentally following and what do I want to break? Because they're not always going to work for you, especially with people who teach like one size fits all, and they're not neurospicy. They don't get it,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely. They don't get it.
it's really easy to be in those containers and feel like you don't belong and feel a lot of shame because you're struggling because they haven't adapted for you. And of course they
Yeah.
haven't. They don't even know. And I didn't know either until I was diagnosed, and I was like, oh, these are all the ways that I've adapted for myself. And I need to be cognizant of this for myself and for my clients.
Absolutely. So share your most recent win, whatever is standing out to you, so that we can leave everybody with inspiration.
Oh gosh. I just launched a course for the very first time and thought that I might sell 10 or 20 spots. I sold 50. And that is freaking amazing. It's changing the whole way that I see myself. I was like, oh, I'm going to stop thinking of myself as like small potatoes over here. I'm
Yeah.
actually a really big deal.
Yeah.
So that was
Kind of a
really,
big
really fun.
deal.
Kind of a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. But it's because I put in the work to give a lot of value and a lot of ahead of time to a lot of people ahead of time. And that was the game changer. Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yay. All
Feels
right. So
fun.
before we hit the lightning round of the fun bonus questions, this is your opportunity in time to plug your motherfucking spot and tell everybody listening how they can find out more about you. Of course, all of your information will be linked to this video as well, and how they can work with you and find you and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, awesome. I am at melaniechilders.com and everything that you need to know is on that first page. But I also have a free Facebook group called Bad Bitch Entrepreneurs that you can join. I show up there all the time. I go live. We have lots of fun in that group. It is growing into a big group. I run the Bad Bitch Mastermind for feminist entrepreneurs who want to grow and scale their businesses. And I also host the Bad Bitch Entrepreneur podcast, where you will hear lots of fun and lots of lessons and lots of hot takes and lots of learning and teaching if you want help growing your business. I'm also on TikTok at the Melanie Childers, where Melanie Branch and I met.
I love TikTok. Everybody knows that's my favorite. In fact,
I love it.
I didn't really, I just grew my business on social media. I woke up one day after all this craziness had gone down in my life, and I said, mindset work has been so incredibly beneficial to me and my life. So let's start coaching other people about it. And I met with two different coaches, and one of them said, "I'll teach you how to grow on Facebook." And I said, "I don't want that." And the other one I met said, "I'll teach you to grow on YouTube." And I said, "I don't want that. I want to go on TikTok." And they both told me, "You can't grow a business on TikTok." And I said,
LOL.
"Watch me." Now, mind you, guess who's trying to grow businesses on TikTok?
Right.
Both those people. And now I've grown
Yeah.
2 accounts because my first account got banned at 45,000 followers. And now I've grown the second one up to over 200,000 followers. And it's like, if you want to grow your business without sitting on a pile of money ahead of time, you absolutely can do it.
Yep.
You
100%.
absolutely can do it. You can be scrimpy and scrappy and just follow a bunch of people and get all of their free stuff possible. I still download every slightly interesting freebie that I see on Instagram when I'm scrolling Instagram just to see what other people are doing,
Same.
see what sort of value I'm going to get from it, all that sort of stuff. I mean, you absolutely can. It's more time consuming. But
Yep.
again, people either want more time, money, or energy, or they want to make more time, money, or energy, or save time, money, or energy.
Yep.
So that is the real secret to success. Okay. So now that we know where to find you, we're going to do our lightning round of fun questions. It's 5 questions that are neurodivergently driven and will help
Okay.
everybody not feel alone in this big, crazy world that we are
Love
navigating as
it.
neurospices. First and foremost, what's your favorite social media platform?
Ooh, TikTok.
Nobody has had a different answer than that. I want you to know.
Of
All
course.
right. Number 2. This is a good one. What's the most recent rabbit hole you've gone down?
Oh, holy shit. What is the most recent rabbit hole? Handbags. I don't know why. I'm completely obsessed. I have one, and now I want all the colors and all the styles.
What is it about them that's so intriguing?
The leather is just so soft. I don't know. They're not like hyper expensive. They're probably more than I would normally spend for just a like Target handbag, but they're not like 2 grand. So they're like, $300, $400, $500. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. I could buy like 3 or
Alright.
4 of those. That sounds fun. What color
I
you got?
love it.
Who's got that
Right?
color?
What are my options here?
What are my options?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. What is your emotional support show?
Ooh. Like a TV show. I was thinking like a podcast.
TV show, movie, anything like that. Whatever you turn on when you can't take on anything new.
True crime.
Really?
True crime. I don't know why. I'm always in like a rabbit hole of like human behavior, and that to me is
Yeah.
the ultimate like what the fuck is happening in your brain that is an okay way to treat people. I'm fascinated by
Seriously.
human behavior, and so it's like true crime makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay. We like that.
And it's also not happening to me, and so it could be worse. Things could be worse.
Let's put everything in perspective. Excellent. My husband doesn't want to kill me. Great news. Wonderful. All right. Have you consumed any water today? And would you like to share your emotional support cup?
It's literally right here. It's hot pink. It's my Bad Bitch Master branded cup that I send to all of my clients. And yes, I had a little too much to drink last night. So I had my noon electrolytes and my big cup of water this morning.
Bing, bang, boom. Awesome. And the last question. What is your current dopamine snack?
I really love, there's a brand called Wonderful Pistachios, and they do like flavors of pistachios.
Ooh.
And I think they're like salt and vinegar.
Yeah.
So good. And I'm like, one handful, and I'm like, I have enough energy, and it's a hit. And it's like the saltiness is like, does something for my brain that it's just like one handful and I'm good for like the next 2 hours. It's awesome.
Yeah. We
Coffee
love that.
also helps.
Yeah, I'm not a big coffee person anymore, but I do heavily fuck with green tea and Diet Dr. Pepper. Not together, but
Yes.
those are my main sources of caffeine these days.
Dr. Pepper Zero is she's my bestie.
Yeah, we love
That's my
it.
jam.
Oh, Melanie, I want to thank you so much for being here. I know my listeners have learned so much, and I will continue fangirling about this for the rest of my
Same. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, and it's so nice to be in your world. You're awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. All right, we will talk very soon.